Hello, my Crystal Loves Texas Facebook family and YouTube family. We missed you last week. We did, but we had a really good segment, Kim, on prostate cancer awareness, and we have a very good friend who's putting up the good fight right now.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that everybody keeps him in their prayers. So so a shout out, send up a prayer. But we are back.
Hold on.
Yes.
We're going to tell people who to send up a prayer for.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if we wanted to do that.
And we've had him on the show before.
Oh, many times.
And that is Dwayne Charleston.
Yes.
In Prairie View, Texas.
Yes.
Give a shout out to Dwayne.
Absolutely.
Keep the faith, Dwayne.
That's right. But we are back, and we are back with one of your favorite topics. You know, you like to see us really, really get down in the trenches and get some answers to some of your questions, because we're going to ask the questions that a lot of people won't ask, and a lot of people are scared to ask, and a lot of people don't know how to get the answers or where to go to get the answers. But in saying that, we have got my new friend, and by way of John Branch, shout out John. Hey, John Branch. Okay. By way of John Branch, we have got Deddrick T. Wilmer, and he is a candidate for Congressional District 9, right here out of Texas. Yeah. And he is a brave soul, a brave sort, because he's going up against an incumbent. I know the feeling, Deddrick. Okay. Yes. Yes. I've been there, done that. And he feels that he's got some things that he can bring to the table, maybe that are some novel ideas that we haven't heard about, or that we haven't considered before. And Deddrick, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, first thing,
let me say this. My sister Kim, did you introduce yourself? No.
Did I not?
No. This is my sister Kim.
Sister Kim.
I know. And
Sister Kim.
Yes, this is my sister Kim, and when Rebecca is out, Kim is my co-host.
This is not my first time with Rose.
No, it's not. And Deddrick T. Wilmer, tell us about yourself.
She had to bring reinforcements tonight. Yeah, had to bring family tonight. And also to, Rebecca is the other co-host. I'm going to say, Rebecca, safe travels. Have a great time with that.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be here. So
That's
next
right,
time,
Rebecca.
I need you here.
That's right.
So, Crystal, thank you for having me. And Kim, thank you for having me. And first, before we go forward, I had a scare with prostate.
Wow.
My prostate. So I just want to tell all of our viewing audience,
Right.
all men, if you are 30 and above, or if you're younger than 30 and you have a history of prostate cancer in your family, make sure you tell your physician or provider to order a PSA test.
Yes.
Every time you get your physical. And if you have issues, go 6 months. Every 6 months, order the PSAs. No one's ever going to tell you. They may deny you an opportunity to get a colonoscopy, which that's another topic, but your PSAs, they would do so. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a big fan of, the I call it the evasive way to test.
Nobody is.
I'm not, and trust me, I'm not.
And that's what scares people.
And I'm one of those. And I believe there's technology to go beyond the invasive method.
That's right.
So that's why I get your blood work. Go take some MRIs.
That's right.
And sometimes if you're gonna take that trip to Cancun and spend $4,500 on the trip,
that's right.
Invest that $4,500 in a full body MRI scan.
Yes, that's
so I'm one of those, and I know that's another topic, another given day. So that's one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress.
Yeah.
My name is Deddrick Wilmer, as you might know. I'm the congressional candidate as a Republican nominee who's challenging Al Green in the upcoming 2026 midterm elections.
Right.
We're at a pivotal time. Is that we're in a time that we have to not just focus on D's and R's, but focus on building relationships. This is why our political climate is what it is right now today.
Right.
Ladies, is that it's got to a point that people are afraid to talk to the other side, and the other side afraid to talk to the other side is because they're going to lose cool points with donors.
Yeah.
And as well as support on social media.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, President Obama talked about this, and even Pope John Paul, when he was the presiding Pope, said that the media will be the demise of this great nation. And President Obama said the 24-hour news cycle is going to destroy our electorate because it's going to brainwash them to pick a side. And And if you remember, I know you get hot right
I
now.
got something to say. No,
Hit
I'm
me.
not hot. Not hot. But let me say this, Deddrick.
Mhm.
Kim also. I'm from Houston. Kim is from Houston. I know you're from Louisiana, Deddrick, but you've been here for a minute.
24 years.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you remember a time when you didn't even know your neighbor's political party?
You didn't
Because
know.
it wasn't important.
It wasn't important.
Yes, yes. And now we have a climate whereby it's absolutely a way that people ostracize themselves from each other legitimately. They elect to do this. And I'm like, wait a minute, it did not used to be like that, which makes me know that it doesn't have to be like that.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why. So what had happened? Texas went from. I use Louisiana example, our neighboring state.
Mhm.
Our neighboring state, majority of their elections are nonpartisan. Most of our local elections, like I sit on a Harris County Mud District, Municipal Utility District 248, we're nonpartisan.
Right.
Even our city council is nonpartisan.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but on the time it becomes partisan, when you get to state and
Yes,
federal,
that's right.
you'll say so.
Correct.
But in Louisiana, there's no primaries. So when there's no primaries, everybody runs,
Yeah.
and the top two will be two Republicans, be two Democrats, be two whatever, and they go off for the
I
runoff.
like that.
And that's where, but we hopefully we get there. But we just came from straight ticket voting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is that? We went
Yeah.
from straight ticket to so people now is like, but the national scope is say you need to pick a side.
Right.
It's either you MAGA
Yeah.
or you for progressive left,
Yeah.
true liberal.
Right.
But you remember the independents a couple years ago?
Yeah. Oh
They
yeah.
don't exist anymore, huh?
Oh, they're still around.
But
Yeah.
but do you hear the media talk about that anymore?
Not
Yeah.
not in an election year.
They never did.
Not
Not an election year.
That election
Yeah.
year. You remember the blue collar workers
It's almost like it's
and the
the
lunch pail
spirit.
guys?
Yeah, Tea Party.
You were the Tea Party.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
So
They got absorbed.
So you got absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
So what has happened now? If you're a Republican, you have to be MAGA. And if
Or you're
a
labeled-
Democrat,
you're labeled
you're
MAGA,
labeled. And then if you're a Democrat, then you have to be the far left.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to. So it became this identity politics, everyone.
Right.
And this is why I encourage is you get to know your candidate, get to know the person who you decided. If you don't know that person, Google it. You can
Yeah.
find a lot of information on Google.
Right.
And if they don't have a website that clearly state on what their views and what their doctrine is and what their platform is, they're not your person because
Right.
most time they're a party surrogate or party representative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why there's no difference in change in your neighborhood. And that's what's happening in the 9th district. He's been in office since the Bush administration.
Okay.
And I'm talking about Bush's son.
Yeah.
Say Bush
Yeah.
daddy, Bush's son.
Too. Yeah.
And so on W.
Right.
And then so, but what has happened, there's only 5 bills that he have authored and wrote and went through the whole legislative process and signed by the president, guys.
Yeah.
And 4 of those bills were names on buildings.
Okay.
And one was legislation that was an amendment to a previous bill in law. So
Right.
and the earmarks is almost non-existent. So what I always say that we have to, and I'm not just picking on him because I'm challenging him, it's just other elected officials that we have to hold them accountable for what have they done to improve your community,
Right.
your county, your city, your state, and your nation. You have to go to those questions because it's not just holding a position because you represent a special interest group or a not-for-profit or your law firm, but you represent the people.
Right. Okay. Now Deddrick, let me say this because it was so absolutely volatile in this past election season.
It was.
I mean, just like I've never seen it before in my life. Honestly, it was really, really,
It was.
really nasty.
It was.
And with that in mind, and so many people having to, there's a young man who has a YouTube channel,
Mhm.
and he said something one day, and this was only about a few months ago. He said, the most dangerous thing that can happen is for people to place their whole identity into a political ideology.
Mhm.
Then
They're
it becomes a
anti-
cult.
Yeah, a political ideology. Okay. Not and it could be the same thing for religious. You know, you know, where your entire identity is a certain ideology. So if that ideology begins to curve around to where it is really going off the cliff, it's hard for you to extricate yourself from that because you've built your whole identity around it. I went to school with people that I can almost guarantee you, there may have been, now this, we were high school people then, but when I can guarantee you there may have been 20 blue people in that school, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe 20, okay? That look like us, okay? Yeah, all the blue people look like us, okay. But, but here's the thing. I had friends that we went to people's houses, we spent the night, we did everything together, and it was no big deal because nobody cared about somebody's political views. Nobody cared. You went to the beach, you went out to eat, you went to the weddings, and that was just, those were your people. Where did it become? So it's almost like people are discouraged to embrace people of different beliefs. And that's something that has been a seed that has been intentionally planted.
You know,
What do you think?
I'm gonna be honest with you. You have two types of folks. You have the electorate,
Yeah.
and then you have the general population.
Right.
Okay. So I give an example in the ninth district. So there's 745 to 750,000 for each congressional district.
Right.
So in the ninth district, there's right at close to a cluster of 400,000 people who actually register voters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we understand the separation.
Yeah.
So and even also I do media buy. I knew from Gumbel, and then I'm president of
Right.
Mortgage Bank, and also too, of course, media buy for this campaign.
Uh-huh.
And is that you almost have a teeter of, it's like you have targeting people who actually vote, but it's hard because your message, you almost have to kind of, people aren't going to really get engaged or go viral unless they mad at something.
There you go.
And that's why, let me tell you this, that's why
Anger.
I
right.
always say people don't vote their love, they vote their hate.
That's right.
They vote their hate.
So, but it takes leaders like myself and others to say pivot away from that and focus on tabletop issues. Tabletop issues are going to be not jobs but careers. It's going to be lower property taxes, lower homeowners insurance and flood insurance. What we're going to do about Houston, we're going into the rainy season, into hurricane season. And you got two issues. You got water that sits on ground. How are we going to shoot this water to the ship channel in Galveston Bay, which I'm going to propose. One of the first earmarks I'm going to do in office. And also, two, we got to support Centerpoint. I don't know why in the city of Houston, you go into county, or you go in these lanes like Sugar Land and Pearland and Woodlands and everything else. They have their power lines underground.
Right.
We can take those same power lines and support Centerpoint by laying these power lines underground.
Yeah.
Easements is already there, laid down the ground, but funding has to take place. And that's what we need for our congressional leaders to do to support our municipal districts, our counties in Houston Metro, and also our cities in the city of Houston. Give them the grants and opportunities to take care of all. But it's so focused on, I'm focused on all day long impeaching the president, or I'm focused on the other side and fighting a fight that doesn't need to be fought. And there's many fights and many fights on, like, I'm fighting, for security on the border. Well, border crossing is not as much anymore. So let's pivot to something else that we can do to help real Americans. So it's what has happened, but we have to do something to excite, because if the donations are not coming in, I gotta say something. I gotta do something in order to get the donations.
I can see where you going on there. Now, there are issues that are the sexy issues that will stir up the base.
Yes.
And there are issues that literally, what you just said, are issues that are across the board. No Democrat, no Republican would disagree with you on anything you just said as far as those issues.
You'd be surprised. I mean, Kim, you'd be surprised, because I would be considered as a rhino on one extreme.
Yes.
And then on the other extreme, I'd be considered as a sellout.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything you said yet that would make you go to the sellout.
You know,
But the rhinos,
because of the label.
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah.
the label.
The labels. That's right.
Because of the label. Because
That's true.
I'm not talking about dependency.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about independence.
you pay into that.
So Kim,
Yeah.
I'm gonna add to that. And Crystal,
Working day.
let's talk about
Yeah.
Medicaid. Okay, Medicaid is simple.
Mhm.
There's no such thing that anybody's going to cut. The Trump administration and the Republicans are not cutting Medicaid. The $89 billion to be exact, $89 billion were proposed by the Congressional Budget Office to say, find these cuts. These cuts are very easy to find based on two segments. Of course, we know the elephant in the room is the illegal immigrants that came in the country. You got to provide healthcare assistance. It is what it is. So a lot of them are in transitioning back to their origin countries. And then the second part is accessibility of reimbursement rates through the providers.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It has nothing to do with the individual patients, because individual patients is necessary, because if not, then we have a serious issue. You got to have rural hospitals. It's hard to get physicians, hard to get providers to go into, Washington County, which is 3 counties to the northwest,
Right.
or going in external counties in West Texas and East Texas.
Right.
So it's not going anywhere. Medicaid's here. But what I would like to see is our, and I'm talking about non-disabled, because disabled is what it is.
That's right.
They don't have much income. We got to take care of them.
That's
And
right. That's
our
right.
individuals who are, like I say, from 50 to 64,
Mhm.
okay, who can't work anymore, they retired and whatever they disabled. Those, but I'm talking about individuals who are
Able-bodied.
able bodies,
Mhm.
individuals. We want to transition those individuals directly to into private through the ACA. I have ACA. It's Affordable Care. It's called Obamacare.
Mhm.
It is the
I've had
best.
best insurance
Yeah.
I've
Now,
ever
I'm certified in it. You took the words out of my mouth.
Best.
I'm listening.
ever had.
Ever, because you're in full
Wow.
control.
Yeah.
And I say this, but there's so much misinformation that came from talking points on to the right,
Right.
that told you that Obamacare is not the Obamacare bad. Guess what it did? It helped cover me, because I had, and we all have pre-existing conditions.
Right.
If you stop your toe,
That's pre-existing.
it's pre-existing condition.
That's right.
And so that took care of that. Also took care, preventive care. Those are things. If I'm in
Yes.
Congress, I guarantee tell you this: ACA will be stronger. It will be modernized. Medicaid will be stronger. Will be modernized.
Right.
Medicare will be stronger and be modern. And our VA system, because I never had a veteran yet, including my father, ever ate on VA.
Mhm.
They love it. So
Yeah.
what we can do is modernize it, but we have to be smart with it. But also now the provider rates, that probably need to have some type of a commission, because
Right.
there's providers can bill, insurance companies most time they pay cents on the dollar
Correct.
Right.
for reimbursement.
Right.
Medicare, they play a couple of dollars on top of the dollar.
Yeah.
They pay well.
Yeah.
They don't have a team of nurses and other nurses and doctors who decide
They have to. That's
and
right.
who actually review the billing and review the claims. Versus on Medicare and Medicaid, you may have a contract come from the government, and they review it, they just rubber stamp it, pay the bill, and keep moving because of the volume of people that are coming through.
Right.
And so that just put that out there. But what I'm more concerned about, like you were saying earlier about the political climate, it has to go back to the people. You, the people, have to be in control.
Right.
And we can't get so caught up on the emotions. Yes, it was a unique situation with the DNC, the handling of President Biden, and then of course didn't allow for to be honest with you, a primary for Vice President Harris. And when that assignment, and that's one of the issues that I have, is that disappointing and anointing and not allowing the due process for the people.
And to be quite honest with you, she probably would have come out in the same place anyway, which is fine. But the visual was not necessarily the best visual.
And and I'm gonna tell you something. It was and I blame our former President Barack Obama on record. When he divided, he said that before 9/11, one vote was cast in early voting.
Mhm.
He went out and did a stump speech and stated the fact that black men, you're not, and I'm paraphrasing, why are you not supporting Kamala? It's not right for you not to support Kamala. Support your sister.
He
And I'm
did.
paraphrasing.
Now let me say this.
And I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, he did that, you know, in the middle of her campaign when it looked like there were, you know, black men, you know, leaning toward Trump.
How?
He did that in the middle of the campaign. It wasn't prior to.
But no voting took place.
Of course, voting did not take place until early voting took place. So remember, we are talking about a 3 month, literally presidential campaign. Right. So a lot was compressed into that 3 months.
For Kamala, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So Obama came out and he said that, but at that point in that 3 month campaign, that was like a month and a half prior to a vote being cast. So that's what I'm saying. You know?
And I'll be honest with you.
I honestly wished that she had a longer campaign. I wish that there, you know, the debate, the Biden-Trump debate. You know, that was the turning point.
Yes, it was.
You know, it's funny I say that. I didn't have a problem with it, Kim and Crystal, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I know I hate to go back to the past, but it's a president. People don't realize the president's schedule. His day starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 to 5 in the morning. Starts briefings all the way, and then he had to fly to Atlanta, have a debate starting at 9 o'clock at night in Atlanta. And I'm right at 50 years old. Okay, so at 9 o'clock in Atlanta, and I travel out for I service that state. I'm tired, and to sit there and have a 2 hour, almost a 2 hour debate. And I'm having a sinus infection in the middle of July, because having a debate in July didn't make any sense to me.
And you're over 80.
I don't care if you 49. Okay, it still didn't make sense. Barack Obama had his first debate when he was challenged by Mitt Romney. Everybody called for his neck. He wasn't prepared. He's a one-termer and everything else. That is so below your list of priorities to sit and argue for 2 hours with somebody. But it was an opportunity to remove him. And that's my personal opinion. That's my take, because again, and I feel this, and I say this strongly, and I say this privately, and I say this publicly today. I really felt that Kamala had to do this over again. She would say, no, I'm supporting Joe. We're going to ride with Joe. We're going to fight with Joe. And if you want to get somebody, if you want to get Gavin Newsom or any other person you want to do, go get that person. Because what it didn't get Kamala the opportunity to let the whole entire country know her through a primary system, which she did have a primary when she ran in 2016 election.
Right.
You're saying, it was 2016. Yeah, 2016. 2016 election, and she decided to not engage. And 2020 election.
That's right. Yeah,
2020. The 2020 election. And so she got out right before Iowa caucus.
Right.
And then but she didn't get that opportunity. But
people didn't get to know her.
Didn't get to know her. So she'd have probably had a better position for 28, but I think she should have stood her ground and say, no, I'm good. Go get somebody you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and primary that person. If they win or they don't win, I just jump it back into 28 and been fine. And so I just really feel that there's a lot of things that could have done different. But like I shared with you, is the original question is, the political identity is becoming from because people are somewhat politically illiterate.
Oh, absolutely politically illiterate.
So it's easy for me to attach to one side. It's easy for me to say, hey, I'm a Republican, or it's easy to say I'm a MAGA, or it's easy to say I'm a liberal. But it's not easy to say, what can I do? What can my government do for me so I can be able to maintain my job, give me safe water, give me clean air, and those different things. That's what we got to get to.
And I'm gonna say this because I'm a history teacher, and I have to teach this about our very, very first president. You know, there is something to be said about George Washington's farewell address when he said, "Beware of political parties. They will be the downfall of this country."
Whoa.
Yes. George Washington
He spoke that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And he almost 248 some change years ago?
Yes. Yeah, he believed that people should run on their character.
And remember, going forward from George Washington going forward, there were lots of political parties.
With
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
so it is.
Democratic, Republicans, Federalists, Anti-Federalists.
Yeah, all of that.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So it went up down.
It was ham then, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of people really, and a lot of people still, still think, and rightly so, that a two-party system is, horrible, simply because that forces you into camps.
It does.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is, I will sit here and say this unequivocally, that I don't agree with everything that one party says or everything that the other party says. There are some things that I say, no, I'm not with that. Or when I see something being done, I can't support that. I don't like that. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I look at things that happen. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. This political season, this presidential political season, it was intentionally, in my opinion, an intentionally divisive situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point where cabinets were being selected and people were being put in positions. People were overtly being taken out of positions because of nothing other than
political alliance.
Yeah, their political alliance, even though they may have had the absolute best background, especially some of our military leaders.
True that.
Okay. And
Do I need to say it? Hexeth? I'll say it.
Yes.
Because I'm that girl.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the thing. I don't mind saying it too. I think that for any president, you need to surround yourself with the people who are not simply your cronies, but the people who are going to put you in the position to be the best informed and make the best decisions possible. That's wisdom.
Okay.
That's wisdom.
Now you just touched on an important point. That's wisdom. And if wisdom is not there, then at that point, you rely on cronyism, you rely on narcissism, you rely on people who are going to
and things begin to fall apart around you. But the thing about it is, but when you are making those decisions and it only affects you, it doesn't matter. But when it begins to affect a country, I'm going to talk about cronyism, and I want you to chime in on this because the entire Republican Party it caught the whipping on this. Elon Musk.
Well, it
caught the whipping on that.
Let's talk about. I'm gonna go before I go to Elon Musk. I don't know these guys. On Elon, before I go to Elon, I know that I knew he was gonna bring that up. On Elon, but I'm gonna go to Elon. Okay.
And it even got to the point. It got to the point where it was an embarrassment for the president.
Okay. So what has happened? I run a mortgage bank. So I'm a non-depository. I run a non-depository bank. Okay. So we don't collect deposits. We just lend. Okay. So I'm regulated by 6 government agencies in 4 states. Okay. And so that means that I've always had people that ask me about my books.
Right.
They want it personal, professional.
That's right.
They see that as long as we close, everything is scrutinized.
Yes.
And in the federal government, you have the inspector general, okay, in the federal government level. So what has happened, those was created to find, government waste.
Mm-hmm.
But what the deal was, Elon is coming in from an opportunity to find what is efficient like he does for his companies.
And it's a horse of a different color.
But but I understand that. But what has happened, it wasn't, and I'm speaking on me.
Right.
It wasn't the intent of trying to find a seek to destroy, right? I see what the word, seek to destroy. It was an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to run my methodology on how it's been done. But the optics of it, now what happened was never been president done in the first 100 days of administration. Administration trying to first you got to get confirmed.
Yeah.
You got to get settled down.
Yeah. And
because the government always going to function, regardless who's the president, is from the undersecretaries all the way down to the GS.
That's what makes it go. That's right. That's right.
You got the secretaries, undersecretaries, ESs, executive series down to the GS.
Right.
1. Okay. So the government going to function. So the dynamic of it is the fact that it was the way it kind of went wrong wasn't presented fashionably well to the American people. It had to do all over again, and there was no end game. And that could be argued. That could be from it could all be going down to the White House itself. It could go down to, of course, Elon Musk. It just wasn't presented well.
Well, here's the thing.
They had to do it over again.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing, Deddrick, and this
Honestly,
this is what I believe. You cannot always operate. You have some things that do operate in a vacuum of sorts. You cannot run a household like you would run a school.
Right.
You cannot run a hospital like you would run a gym. Entities with different functions are built to function differently, and they need different things to be able to be efficient. So, yes, you can say, if I completely eradicate that agency, then I'm going to say, let me put it in the perspective of HISD. Okay,
Let's go.
my old workplace. When that administration came in for HISD, the current one, the first thing that happened was that everyone in the human resources department was let go except for 4 people. Okay, now you have a human resources department of about 35, 40. So when you have people who need to be onboarded, when you have people that are needing to come in and talk about their retirement, they're getting ready to retire. When you have people, new teachers and contracts, we had a situation where for weeks and weeks and weeks, no one could even answer the phone. Yes, you save money, but what in turn was affected in such a negative way that it's almost hard to come back from.
But I'm gonna tell you, Crystal. You know who I blame? I blame the board members. I'm gonna break it down to you. As a congressman, I'm gonna take it about me. I'm gonna say, if I was the current congressman of the Congressional District,
right,
I would have had a conversation with Susan Miles. She's the chief of staff of the White House, and I would say, Susan, explain to me what is the end game,
right?
Okay, and number 2, what is the real methodology of this? You know what I'm saying? And number 3, is that okay, and how is it going to affect, which departments? If it's from like in Houston, we have a lot of government agencies here, and that's
absolutely.
So I want to find out how it's going to affect the Houston delegation,
right?
Regardless if it's myself, if it's Lizzie Fletcher, if it's Wesley Hunt, if it's Dan Crenshaw, Martin Luttrell, you know what I'm saying, or Sylvan Gonzalez, if it was her, how it's going to affect everyone? Because I don't care about the partisanship thing, because we all want.
That's right.
And so once I get that information, then I can be able to communicate to my folks. Okay, we're going through this process. This is the end game. It's going to take us third quarter 2025, and the dust should settle.
Right.
But everything's going to be okay because I have the relationships with these agencies and with the White House to let them know we had it. No one did that.
Okay, so let me jump in right here.
And I go back to HISD.
And you know what? And it sounds like that would have been a wonderful way to do it because you have some sense. Okay, now here's the difference.
Like a lot of people do.
Here's the difference.
Yeah.
The whole Elon Musk thing, it was a man who came out with
arbitrary.
chainsaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait,
even a chainsaw. Not only were they not the greatest, they were the beginning of the end.
And they were insulting to people.
They were insulting to people, and they were not only insulting, but when you have someone who says, "Oh, there'll be some temporary pain," you're looking at a billionaire who doesn't seem to care at all about somebody who is not in that billionaire status. You have somebody with glee who is going on to social media and trolling people about losing their jobs. You have people who are coming in, the Doge boys, who are coming in and literally going without any sort of security clearance, going into agencies, going into computer systems, and literally doing what we would arrest people for and put them in jail for if it were not the special department of the president, you have that. The optics are bad, but the methodology
Was worse.
That's right, and that's what I go. And I know,
and
I know Susan Wiles probably.
mhm,
I know her blood pressure went up 1,000.
mhm.
And I know the rest of the administration blood pressure went high because again the optics. Because we all know things that happens in decency and order. Okay, and like I said again, if I cannot tell the executive branch what my job is to hold that entire branch accountable.
Mhm.
There are 3 equal branches of government.
Right.
And so my responsibility, hey guys, okay, I know it's cute what y'all doing, but just let me know what's not. I can't save other 400 other 34 districts,
Right.
but I can make sure the 9th district is taken care of to make sure how it affect my district. And that's one of the things that I think the president coming out the election, he was still hottest fish grease from losing the previous election
2020.
for 2020. And also too, you made an earlier point about the previous the cabinet.
Mhm.
So he has got to understand, Jared Kushner and his daughter was his chief of staff,
Mhm.
who ran the White House for him in his first term and everything. And they brought a lot of good people. I'm not discrediting the people in his current administration, but he brought different types of people. And,
But you know what?
and he said, "I'm gonna do it my way."
And it's a very telling situation whereby they have said, hands off. We push completely back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
And the more you have people who literally are not going to hold anyone accountable, that includes your executive branch. Instead of holding someone accountable, saying, "Hey, you know what? This is not a good idea," and a lot of people did that in Trump's first administration. They did.
Yeah, they did.
And it made him
Furious.
so angry because people didn't agree with him. If you are someone who is an excellent leader, you want someone who is not going to agree with you all the time.
That's right.
You want someone who is going to give you 2 or 3 different, give you different because of their expertise.
That's right.
Different perspectives because of their expertise. Just because you're the president, that does not mean that you
You're
have more knowledge than someone who has been in the military, a 4-star general who's been in there for the past 40 years.
Yeah.
Just because you're the president.
Right.
No, take that knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel the fact that I was like, let's get through this first 100 days of which we have now. And I said, let the dust settle, let the emotions from his angle to clear out. Okay, all right, the 100 days is done. Now let's get to real. And I've started seeing that for the last couple of weeks. It's like, hey guys, let's get a bill to make sure everybody's taken care of. Let's get, like, especially this new super bill, which has been stalled by several, far right wing conservatives in the House, and trying to get a bill where it's that everybody's taken care of. And I think that's why I say is that I know we still getting off an election, and I really feel the fact that this president is going to come to a sense because now he's going to start focusing on his legacy.
Okay, well,
He's a man of image. He's a man of image. You know that.
But Deddrick, okay, how do you think that image is looking with the gung ho approach to ending birthright citizenship?
Okay, so the birthright citizenship has nothing to do with like the president said on record. He said that I support the birthright citizenship like the law was written based on the descendants like us, the ADOS, the American descendants of slaves. Okay,
Hold on.
you know what I'm saying? And that was one of the things I always talk about. Are they more graceful than other nations? But again, I don't have a political opinion on it. Right now, it's been debated by the Supreme Court. Our dreamers had probably never visited some of these nations that their parents come from.
Well,
And to now send them off to somewhere else, that's when I have to issue breaks.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear on something. And a lot of times we don't even consider this. We don't consider this. When the people came over on the Mayflower, when the people came over here, coming from England and setting up the 13 colonies, as they were coming and getting off the boat and setting up those colonies along the eastern seaboard, nobody was applying for citizenship. They were just coming.
Right.
Okay, and let's just be clear.
100%.
Okay, so we have to take a look at this and see when the changes began to, when was it set forth that now we have to register and apply and be approved? As many people that could get off of the boat were coming, and they were just here and they were having kids. Do we start sending back those descendants of the original founding fathers and the descendants of the people who came into the 13th colony?
Of slaves.
I mean, I understand that, but I'm not going to go that far. Kim and Crystal, I just think that this nation had to be set. The infrastructure had to be set. Like any government, you run businesses. Yeah, I know that. So, you got to come in together, put the whole pot and then actually set some type of structure. So once the nation actually became structured, then of course it's not a nation of open borders.
Absolutely.
But we did, but also what on the other side of that. Well, we have done a very good job in offshoring folks into this nation, bringing folks into the countries of industries that we need to support. If that is in technology, that is in, of course, back in the 20s and 30s, we brought folks from Ireland.
That's right.
From Italy, other nations.
Germany, that's right.
Poland come in and say, hey, we need resources, we need bodies to come build up our cities.
That's right.
After industrialization.
Right.
But what has happened, well, I think we fail to realize this, that this nation, I use black as African Americans, African descent. We only 11% of the population.
Yep.
And we only 4 to 6% on a good Obama day back in 08 of the electorate.
Right.
So, but what has happened, we don't much in a competitive world for as economics. You have poor whites and competing against our Mexican brothers and sisters, our Hispanic brothers and sisters. And it comes down to this roofing job. If I call Billy Bob to do the roof job, and Billy Bob gonna charge me $25,000 to replace a 2,500 square foot roof.
That's
but if
right.
I call, Pedro, and Pedro's my buddy, and Pedro gonna charge me $8,500.
That's right.
And that happens in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah.
And that's where the issue lies. Everything is always based on economics.
Absolutely.
It's not based on I don't like you because of who people may perceive based on a specific color. That person have a color or have an ethnicity that they cannot erase. And so, because they're not one of us, they're not with us, they don't know us, we're not cool with them. It's only because the competitiveness is that taking jobs. It was no different from Jim Crow.
But see, the thing about it is, I don't know. I would have to step back away from that for just a little bit and think about the taking of the jobs. There are many jobs, many jobs that newcomers do right now that you cannot get Billy Bob or Leroy.
You sure can.
Or to do.
You can.
And the thing about it is now people are feeling the pinch because Leroy, he said, no, I'll just go pick up a check, And I don't mean to sound ugly.
I'm gonna wait until I get a job that I feel like I want to have, not one that I feel like I
have to have. That's right.
And I'm just gonna wait on it. So, but now, can I just slide in?
Yes, you may.
Yes, you may. It's the reason
she carried the Constitution.
She does.
Constitution.
I really am. And I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this because I love the Constitution of the United States.
Me too.
Because I believe it is one of the, not perfect at all times, it is a living, breathing document, but it is a great BS detector, and it is a great hypocrisy detector. It really is. Because at a certain point, you have to look at these words that people have written, and you have to hold it up to the reality of this country.
That's right.
And that's why I love this Constitution, because people,
read is essential.
People, when the founding fathers who wrote this great document up, there were things that were quite popular in this country, like slavery.
That's right.
Very popular.
That's right.
I mean, really popular. And at a certain point, they had to look and say, wait a minute.
Look in the mirror.
It
That's
is
right.
really popular,
economically feasible,
and economically great for half the country.
Yeah.
But I'm going to look at it and say, you know what? This is not right.
Yes.
Because that's what the Constitution says. We can't just be hypocrites forever. We have to look at it and we have to, say that this is not right. Now, I'm a swing back real quick to naturalized birthright citizenship. Section 1, Amendment. What is that? 14.
14.
You see what I can do with my
Yes, I see that.
Highlighted.
Hey, you can't argue against facts.
All right.
Facts
All
versus
persons
feelings.
born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
Right.
No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges. Okay, now.
Right.
Abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Right.
Nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Now, right there, this that I just said right there is so much
clear.
It is very clear. It is very clear. It's so clear that in the Supreme Court in these last few days, it was so clear that they were the justices were basically allowing this administration's attorneys to dig themselves into a giant constitutional hole.
Right.
Okay, but and that's what I'm saying. A lot of people, and again, reading is fundamental. A lot of people think the Constitution says certain things. Well, people who are, if they're not citizens, they're not, they don't have any due process.
Oh, yes.
Or if their parents were not born here, they shouldn't be birthright citizens.
And
go back to your Constitution.
And Kim, but what made this complicated over the last, I mean, let's go back into the 30s, the 20s and 30s, but let's even go back from the 80s. You have refugees, folks that come on education visas, political asylum, industry needs, and one-offs.
Right.
But this country never had a true comprehensive immigration policy.
That's right.
It only goes based on the mood of the nation.
That's right. Or who's in office at a certain time. That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there needs to be a policy that is the same all the time. And what were you telling me? Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying this. I will. Deddrick Tavares Wilmer will write. I will bring up an immigration bill, and I state this on our commercial, our political ad. We will actually create a bill where we end this mess, and we all will be equal as one. We have a genuine policy, whereas the fact that everyone can now finally move forward. This is a topic that we got to start. We got to move forward. We have to.
Not only do we have to move forward, but we have to hold the mirror up into the faces of people who are fine with some people immigrating to this country who look a certain way, and others who don't look that way, trying to make sure that there are not as many of them.
Yeah, I mean
that's just a fact.
That's just a fact. Now, let's bottom line it. Okay,
that's right.
In the last few days, let's just say since this administration came into office,
right,
there have been a wholesale attempting to purge undocumented aliens.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's illegal aliens. That's what they're called. That's not what I call people, but okay. So people have gone and people who are United States citizens have been swept up into that.
That's right. Because they look a certain way. Because they speak a certain way.
There you go. And not only that, there have been people who are let's see, not what they have been said to be. Not necessarily gang members, or not necessarily
vast majority not.
Vast majority not. Taken to other countries. I mean, just running the citizen roughshod over the Constitution, right? Now, and then within the last few days, other people, let's say people from South Africa, who have been not petitioning for asylum at all, but who've been
Who
in
love where they are.
who did, yeah, they were like, hey, we're okay where we are because we own,
We're doing well.
we own 3/4 of the land. We're good.
Right.
But people who have been literally invited in to jump over all the
lines of people who would apply, who would need to apply.
Yeah.
Are not allowed to apply.
Yeah, not allowed to apply. Or if they do apply, it might take them 20 years to become citizens. And then you have people who are invited in, and they're going to take, you know, a very short time to become citizens.
Yeah.
Now, it can be said the same thing about when Biden was in office with people who were genuinely, legitimately fleeing persecution.
Right.
Legitimately.
Yes.
And those people were allowed to come in and have a fast track to citizenship if they had family here and this and that, and they could be, you know, sponsored, all that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, those people were actually, that was stripped from them, or attempted to be stripped from them by this administration. So the whole thing
the
of
Afghan people, many of the Afghan people
who helped our soldiers
right
in Afghanistan,
right,
and who
they were able to
that-
get over here.
who
Yes.
some congressional people vilified
Yeah.
the Biden administration for getting out of Afghanistan the way it did, and, you know, not standing up for the people who helped us.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'll turn around and support sending those people right back. I mean, it has no rhyme or reason, and that is my point. Because there is no rhyme or reason, it is subject to the whims of whatever person is in power at that time, from Woodrow Wilson, from people, you know, dealing with eugenics, not wanting people in from certain countries, you know, browner or blacker countries,
Right.
and wanting people in from whiter countries,
Yes.
or people who are, you know, the Chinese Exclusion Act. I mean,
Right.
just so many egregious examples throughout the years.
Racism. And this is probably what it is, racist.
So when you have people say, we want people to come in the right way, what is the right way? There's never been a national standard.
That's why there needs to be a
policy.
Right way.
That's why I say, and again, I wrote the draft of it.
Yeah.
There was legislation that came back in 2020. It was the fall. It was the spring of 24. This time during the presidential election,
Mm-hmm.
that both houses really was in agreement
Mm-hmm.
of moving forward. Of course, Donald Trump, his campaign said no.
Of course.
Don't agree on it and whatever.
Yeah.
Part of that bill, I'm going to actually introduce that.
Mhm.
So you got to realize, refugees, political asylums, and one also internees, that's all based on, you can't predict when a country is going to start persecuting, you know, women and children.
Right.
And you got to bring them over. You can't
Yeah.
predict those things, but you can still craft a policy to make sure if these things happen, we are going to have you here. But you got to be a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah.
You know, you have to contribute taxes and whatsoever.
You have to go through the
We'll
strict
give you
process.
temporary assistance, but if you're gonna stay here, we'll provide it because we're not only nation in the world.
That's right.
Canada to the north,
That's
Mexico to
right.
the south, and Europe and
That's right.
to the east. So
Yeah.
we're not just what I'm saying, we can't just be the grace to save everybody. And we have to get into nation building. We got charity begins at home.
That's true. That's
So
true.
we have some people that struggle. We have mental health issues. We have mental health issues. We have women health issues, and we got a lot of things that we got to take care in our nation.
And you know what, Deddrick, here's the thing, and I've always said this, and I feel very strongly about this. People do not leave a country that is prosperous, where they are doing well, where they feel safe, where they feel valued, where they are able to make a living for themselves and families. People don't leave countries like that.
That's
okay?
right.
So if we are going to put dollars and cents towards walls and all kinds of other things in order to keep people out, what would happen if we, especially our allies, help people to build their infrastructure, help people to create a country where they feel like it's going to be a place where they want to raise their children, where they don't have to be afraid to step outside the door because the drug situation is so bad, where they can be able to have a job that's going to be able to,
Yes.
people do not leave a place where they are doing well and where they are safe and where they feel valued. That just doesn't happen.
And that's why I say, Crystal, is the fact that I want to create a modernization process. It's not going to take 6 years or 10 years and $150,000 to become a permanent resident alien. So the process is you get a visa, you have a time step on that visa, you get into a non-perm status, then you get into a perm status, and then you become naturalized. That's the Congress job. That's not the court's job.
Yeah.
The referees should not be making decisions. You got 435 members of Congress, ladies.
Yes.
You got 100 members in the Senate. So it doesn't take almost 600 people to make a hard decision.
Right.
Everybody's not going to get everything they want in the negotiation process.
Yeah.
But we got to be adults. We got to use some common sense. And we
Yeah.
got to know what we talk about. Everybody on that doggone committee, on both committees that handle immigration, need to be knowledgeable people from different walks of life that know what they're doing and talking about to get this out, and not trying to use it for political score points so they can get elected 2 years down the road.
Right.
And I think this, people talk fatigue. I'm having immigration fatigue now. This has to come to an end, and because again, this nation was a nation of immigrants.
Absolutely.
Always have and always will be.
That's right.
And I look at if and this is why one of the proposals that I may get a lot of pushback on. I believe in states' rights. I believe in it, but I believe in federal oversight. Okay.
States' rights in terms of what? Break that down.
I'm gonna break that down. Okay. So states' rights, these are the 50 United States and territories. Okay. So every state has their way of doing things, but you have an oversight, which is the federal government. Okay. So you can have state specific. There are certain laws that states are more stringent than the federal government. Now it can be challenged in the court system, and if it's supported or if it's in your state constitution, it's fine. The federal government can't tell Texas what to do in certain things. It's because of the fact that it's been tried in the courts. Okay. So in the immigration part, and you got to look at your West Coast states. That's from Pennsylvania to the east, all the way down to, of course, your Michigan to the west. Even can slip into your Illinois. That's your true Midwest states. Okay. Those are union-based jobs. If you ain't working for the union, if you're not supported by the union, get off a union card, you're not getting that job. And that's where they protect the employee rights. But you're looking, and those states are not right to work states. In Texas, this is the right to work state. Yes. Okay. So since it's a right to work state, is the fact that you got to take your butt back to work. You can strike, but that's not going to protect your job in Texas. So, and then we can fire you at cause without any call at will. At will. And so, but what has happened is the state of Texas is flexible by having this type of an immigrant in our state, in the state of Texas, because we're more immigrant friendly. But if the state of Iowa is not, then we can't force Iowa to accept these individuals because they don't want them, because it's going to, number one, alter their workforce. Because everything goes back to economics. Economics and aid. I'm going to break it down. So almost close to 40% of most states' budget is Medicaid.
Yeah, I believe it.
And the other part of that pie is education.
Yeah.
So almost 66% of the Texas state budget goes to Medicaid and education. That's over half of the budget. Okay. And what's left after the 34% is whatever else in between.
Right.
So the point I'm making is the fact that is a lot of money is going to pay for immigrants to Medicaid. Right. And that's why a lot of states say, why do we need to cover? We got enough people got to cover this. It is already. Right. Everything goes back to economics and jobs. So if the state of Iowa do not want these individuals, why do the United States, the federal government, has to force them? They have laws to be protected. But if they're not forced there, they don't want them there, why should they be there? No different from Texas. If Texas is more relaxed, ladies, if Texas is more relaxed and have an immigrant, the state of Florida is, why do we have to force the other states? Oh, well, wait. And this is where we get some level of compromisation on this.
But see, here's the thing.
That their representatives are the ones to push it back.
That's a slippery slope. That's a slippery slope.
But hey,
okay,
yes.
Yeah. And let me tell you why. It's a slippery slope. You know, and I'm a federalist. Yeah. Okay, meaning that I believe in a strong national government. Okay, because you can have, when you have these dissidents who so we need to secede from the union and all this, all these kind of things. People who are of a different religion, or people who look a certain way, or just like 2 years ago, what was up for vote in the state house, not letting people who were from other countries buy land in Texas. What the heck, that could easily slide down the slope of people who are African American, or people who are transgender people, or people who
we're talking about we're talking about the classification of visas. If you're a refugee, education, political asylum, industry needs, and one also. I'm talking about from immigrants who have. I'm not talking about regular traditional naturalized American citizens.
But here's where that breaks down.
Yes.
Because that can then be used for
a wide
range of things to say, okay, because
this is not good for our state.
I didn't say that.
This is it.
I didn't say that. You have federal oversight.
Okay.
You understand? So you have federal oversight. So federal oversight is going to govern this.
Mm-hmm.
But if a specific state goes in the state constitution and say that they still have to accept any other political any other visa status. That's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to employment, okay, and assistance. If they, for instance, and meet their state laws and say we will allow these visas, like if you apply for a mortgage, if you're a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, VA, it's in the books already. They don't accept only certain visas are allowed to get a home mortgage. Okay, so no, it's been in the books forever. People don't know that. Okay, and so the same thing that same system applies from the state level. If the state level say you can live here, we have no problem you live here. But if you want to get assistance here, get any type of, if you want to get Section 8 assistance, you want to get Medicaid assistance whatsoever, then we only allow these certain visas here. If not, then go to California, go to Texas, go to
what would prohibit that same?
Just a conversation. It's
interesting because some of these things people have never thought about before.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me just ask you this, because if that's the case, I understand where you're going with that, but then we would have to take that a step further and say, okay, in this instance, how would that be facilitated? We are going to accept people who have a certain skill set coming in from Laos.
Yes.
Okay, coming in from Laos. Wait a minute. A certain skill set. They may come to Iowa and or anywhere, and let's work here and let's bring them in. However, we can do that on a discretionary level. But now we have a set of immigrants coming from Haiti. They have the same skill set, but we can, on a discretionary level, say that we are not going to accept these refugees from Haiti with the same skill set as the refugees from Iowa. How can you police that?
No, it's easy to police. The laws will be in the books. It's not based on you're not going to accept individuals from Lebanon because you don't like Lebanon today over the state constitution. It's all based on the visa status. So your visa status for refugees is from your H1s, all the different statuses, education, political asylum, industry needs, one-offs whatsoever. So it's going to be in the books. The federal will be federal oversight. And it's up to, again, the state legislators to make a decision on the fact that we will only accept refugees. You can't say I'm a cherry pick. I want refugees only for South Africa, but I don't want any ones from Croatia or from Ghana. Or from, I'm gonna be playing up straight up Haiti. You're not gonna cherry pick. No, that's not how it goes. It's only based on, because again, we have to respect the 50 states, and its territory is based on, a lot of times it's based on employment, because again, the Midwest, they're union strong, and the South is not union strong.
Right.
That's why if you go to Mississippi, if you go any chicken plant Mississippi, you have about 90% Hispanics. Very little whites. And very little to no blacks at work facilities.
That's right.
But you don't see Mississippi acting up, because guess what? That's the labor they need.
That's right.
And that's essential for them. And so, and they take care of it. It is what it is. But they may be okay with that. So I just want to, because the thing is that I want to put this to end and give it to the states. States, we're going to create the law. This is the model. You make a decision on which You're not going to pick and choose nations. You can pick and choose what visa. You have to accept all into your place, but services is a different situation. I'm talking about employment authorizations to work for the state. I'm talking about because any individual that comes to this nation to fly in for tourism, or they come here to visit family, or they want to move here, it's a privilege.
Absolutely.
It's not a right. Only rights that we have is the ones who are naturally born here, or in the high view. You were brought here out of your own will.
Yeah.
Or you landed here because you by love.
Yeah.
You're saying you are a true American. Okay.
Right.
And so, but anyone else that comes in, and again, I say this politically, I say this personally, I believe in the dreamers. It would break my heart to have someone who never lived in Guatemala, using that country example.
That's right.
That said you go back home and you don't know anything about Guatemala.
And they may not even speak the language.
And because I can't pick and choose. I didn't pick and choose Jonathan Seattle.
Right.
Okay. So I can't pick and choose. We didn't pick and choose our parents.
Right.
So I'm here. So, but I'm very confident that the Supreme Court will make a very good decision that we can live by.
And let me tell you what I've been surprised. Let me tell you what kind of surprised me of late, this year, up until this point. The Supreme Court not backing up everything that is thrown at them to try to back up from this administration. Them going by the rule of law and not backing up everything that is obviously.
What that's their right. I mean, Crystal, I don't care who's in administration.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been around since Ford, okay? And I'm with Trump too.
He's a youngster.
Yeah, y'all came with y'all came out with Thomas Jefferson or something. But y'all came with Nixon.
No, Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
Kennedy. And President Clinton was the one I first voted, during his time in '92. When I first voted, his administration.
I first voted against Reagan.
And you voted Reagan. That was back in 84. You know what I'm saying? But I started following it during my first election. I started following was the '84 election between Walter Mondale and President Reagan.
Right.
But as I was saying, is the fact that the end game of this is making sure the fact that, again, give the states the true opportunity to craft it. And it's almost in a sense, like I said, again, even with the abortion situation, and kind of like how the courts there is not their job. Their job is to referee, okay? But it's every administration responsibility to challenge the courts. Like it's my responsibility as a congressman representing the legislative branch to do the same thing on both sides, to hold accountable to the executive branch and also to the legislative branch, because we all three equals to government, because nobody's king, okay? And so that's their responsibility.
Well, just like with abortion and just like with the way the Supreme Court ruled, what it did was set up a different standard of care.
Right.
For every single state in this union.
Yeah.
And because of that means that you can get maybe a greater standard of care and a higher a lower maternal mortality level in Massachusetts than in Texas, which has one of the highest, if not the highest, maternal mortality levels in the country.
In Louisiana.
And a lot of southern states and stuff like that who in a block, are anti-abortion. So we have, radically different, not only that, infant mortality levels.
Yeah.
Radically different standards of care.
Right.
For,
even prenatal.
And that's what I want to talk about. So let's talk about women's care, especially with the situation. I always feel that abortion should be unnecessary. Okay. I just firmly believe it should be unnecessary. And I've seen it, and you're an educator. You've seen when children come to your classroom and I love at home.
Oh yeah. And
the lack of love and lack of support.
Right.
Don't bring this child to this earth if you don't love them. Have other people along the process to help you raise them. And I can understand rape and incest. I can understand other things that occurred, and you don't want this child, you don't want to have it. I respect that and I understand it. I've been around people in my life, almost 50 years of my life, who've been there, loud and clear. I just feel the fact that is that we have to, and one of the things I'm going to do is being the next Congress for the 9th district, is to use these Medicaid dollars that we tell the state of Texas and these states, appropriate these dollars for, prenatal support, prenatal care, dominate in prenatal mental health care.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what these mothers are going through.
Right.
Also to be able to provide wellness. What we don't talk about is wellness, is in mental wellness, physical wellness. And where's the fact that because a happy mama is a happy child.
Right.
And so if we put those things, and that's where government we can do, is work with our non-for-profit agencies, work with our faith-based agencies, and give those opportunities to those individuals.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Oh,
And
we
we don't
almost
have to.
do. Ooh,
No, we're a little bit over, but that's okay.
We're
That's a good thing about having you on studio. Okay,
Yeah.
you can go over a little bit, but
Yeah.
let me throw this out there, and I'm gonna let you finish up because I know you wanted to piggyback off of what Deddrick was saying. But we also want Deddrick and what so many people asked us to ask him about when he came on tonight, Kim. We're gonna let Deddrick touch on how Texas is planning on funding these vouchers.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's a great topic.
We can segue to that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have a lot of thoughts on that.
Or we're going to pivot to that?
Did you want to
comment? I know you want to comment what I was saying.
All right. Very simply, when it comes to reproductive rights,
Mhm.
I believe there was a statistic cited a while back that said that 50% of all pregnancies were unplanned in this country.
It's all right.
50% of all pregnancies are
It's all right.
unplanned.
I was sure. Yes, I believe you.
Exactly.
I believe
And
you on
that
that.
means that, let's just say 50% were wanted,
Yeah, they
desires, I can't wait to have it. And the
Yeah.
other 50% were, oops, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to pay? How am I going to live? How am I going to feed
Provide.
my mouth? How am I, all of that kind of things. It's a complicated thing.
Yeah.
And we wish in a perfect world
Right.
that it were not the case, but this is not a perfect world.
Right.
And we have to acknowledge that. And as much as we would love, all of these children to be able to go to loving homes, we know that is not the case.
Right.
And that is something that has to be dealt with realistically.
Yes.
When we look at women's reproductive rights.
Right.
And not only that, the rights of the woman, not just the rights of what is in her body.
Right.
Because what we do not want is for women to become brood sows.
Yeah.
That's what we do not want.
Right.
And
I don't think it will go in that direction, even though it seems like some people would like for it to be that way.
Mhm.
We have to look at things very realistically.
Yes.
When the more educated our society becomes,
Yes.
the more accustomed they become
Mhm.
to the fruits of their labor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the house in the suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
the pool in the backyard, the 2 cars that are luxury cars, one
Mhm.
cute SUV along with that. Okay,
And being
And
able to plan their pregnancies.
being able to plan their pregnancies, but also being able to take vacations every summer, send the kids to private school if they. It's what I'm describing here is a type of standard of living that we have set up for ourselves, that we have become, that we have become very accustomed to. That does not facilitate more than a couple of children. Because, and see, when people have become accustomed to that type,
Lifestyle.
how are you going to, what do they say? How are you going to keep them down on the farm once they've seen Perry? You know? So when we have literally legislators trying to push the hands of time back and say, well, we need more kids. What's actually being said is we need more children that look like this than these other children. That's just that's the truth. Okay. But when you have women who are accustomed to a certain way of life because they are comfortably middle class now, they're not walking that back.
That's right.
And you said correct, and I'm different for party. Like I said, I'm different for party. Rape, incest, and and that's a deal killer. No.
That's right.
And also too, not just rape and incest, but also too ectopic pregnancies and stuff like that.
That's right. It's
and threats anyone's life, and whether that's not, and regardless of party, that every day. But my dad, we got to take some level of self accountability.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going into the moral way of premarital sex and not doing these things because again, humans gonna be humans, but we have to be responsible.
That's right.
Of using contraceptives, vasectomies, and other items and whatsoever. That's why I said it could be avoided. And there's so many things can be avoided. But if you do, man, if you do decide to have it, and don't feel government is the responsibility to force you not, but if you do, love that child or give it to a family who will love it.
That's right.
And that's when I think the conversation, and I hope it's been shifting to that mode of providing support. And this is when government, we can step in and say, we will support you. And that's why I love the Medicaid part of taking care, of expecting mothers.
Right.
And that's one of the programs that I will make sure it stay tight and right and may enhance it. Because again, if we're going to say, make it discouraging for mothers to have abortion, we guys, government got to do our job to make sure to encourage you to have them. Okay. And love them, but also to support the kid after.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Support the child after.
Yeah.
And that give a segue to this voucher.
Support the child.
And we have to
all the way through college.
We're going to have a part two.
I'm not going nowhere, but we got to talk about this voucher because I want to talk about this. Does everybody want to know? Okay, so
how we gonna fund these vouchers? That's what we want to know.
First thing, that's the state legislature side.
Yeah, we want to know that.
That's state legislature side. I'm a public school. If you follow me, been knowing me for a long time, I'm a public school advocate. I'm a product of public school, K to 12.
Yes.
My son went to K to 12. My mother was taught administrator K to 12. So education and public sector has always been part of my life.
Very important.
Not discrediting private schools, parochial schools, and of course charter schools. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of charter schools. Okay, I'm not, and not just publicly. I am not. And the only reason why is because. And I say this is the fact that I believe that schools should have some level of competition, but at the same time, too, I want to make sure that our public schools and our charter schools are under the same curriculum. Under the same governance. If one going to take STAR tests, everybody take STAR tests.
That's right.
You're saying accreditation have to be the same.
Yeah.
So everything's equal. Compensation is the same. So I believe in equality among all. But in relation to the voucher that the Texas legislature just passed, and of course the governor haven't signed whatsoever, I don't mind of the voucher program unless our funding doesn't compromise our funding of public schools.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, the fact that it should be, and I hate to go into this income-based thing because I know people who live in the lands who struggle.
Yeah.
And they choose to live there because they want to provide their kids a better
with what they can perceive
to be, or what is there, or just be away from crime. Okay.
Yeah.
And they could be around better environment and support system.
Right.
So the dynamic is the fact that I just don't feel that our own tax dollars, should be given to the state budget to be distributed to individual health vouchers. Now, the true school choice that I believe in.
Say that again, Deddrick. You gotta say that again, because I am sure a lot of people. You just blew people's hair back. You being a conservative.
Welcome to the dark side.
Oh no. Yeah.
To the dark side. Right. But the thing about it is, but Deddrick will step forward and say it. There are a lot of people who feel exactly the same way because 90% of the people, regardless of who they are, in Texas are products of public schools.
But I'm gonna throw this at you, Crystal. It's the amount of, okay, so if you take all the school districts, and I'm gonna name them, HISD, South Fair ISD, Spring, Klein, Katy, Fort Bend, Galena Park, Manville, Pearland, Alding, A-Leaf, Spring Branch. I know them all, okay? Because I broadcast them all. I support them all. Money, philanthropy, physical, everything. If you take all the employees, paraprofessionals, educators, the staff, and the companies that vendors support them, you lump them all together.
Yes.
They'll be the largest employer in the state of Texas.
Schools, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to damage your economy. See, like like the Target thing, like Target thing. And that's why, and that's something that's not conventional. Like, why damage a company that hires our people to work in their stores and our vendors of us that work for them to supply our security and our vendors to support those stores. So don't bite the hand that feeds you. So my dynamic is the fact that now I do understand if I had a child, and this is where people may disagree, if I had a child who was on level and going to a certain school, and all I'm seeing them in your classroom, because I know you manage your classroom, but everybody don't manage your classroom like you do, Crystal, that all they doing is cutting up, packing the food, and my own level kid can't learn. My own kid is a C-level kid.
Yeah.
My oldest may be A+, but it's a C-level kid.
Yeah.
And I will be stressing my butt off because my oldest kid had to go do that because he was an honors in AP.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, and so it goes pivot back to the conversation we got to have, like I always say, teachers scared of students.
Yeah.
Parents scared of the students.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Principals are scared of the superintendent. The superintendent's scared of the board. And the board is scared of the parents.
Yeah.
And guess who's scared? And the parents are scared of the kids.
Yeah.
So we have this conscious cycle of people not willing to stand firm and say enough is enough. School discipline is the issue.
Yeah.
We got to, and parents, that's on you. You have to do your job and make sure your kid act right in the classroom.
That's right.
You got to hold yourself accountable. So I can understand the school choice in that sense, or why parents say enough is enough with all the other ideologies and all the everything that's coming about. There's a reason for all of this. But from the financials, that's where I may differ from party on. And I don't think it's a party issue, it's just an ideology issue.
That's right.
Based on
many people
dollars.
different parties who believe that.
Yeah. But again, on record, I am always be a lover of public schools to the day I die.
Yeah.
And that's who I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kim and Deddrick.
It's been so.
I don't know what to say, but I want to give Kim a last word in terms of, and then I'm gonna give both of y'all a last word.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of what we started out talking about here today is what would change mean? What would change look like? Deddrick is saying, I am a proponent of passing the baton, change that could make things look different in our communities. And of course, we are also going to invite the incumbent.
Love to be here with you. Told you that.
Yeah, you did. We're going to invite the incumbent to come on too and kind of give us an idea of some of the things that he has been able to initiate, some of the things that he sees in the future. But all of us sitting here right now today, we can all say that we would like to see some different things happening around us, because in our communities, you have sons?
I have one son.
One son. Okay. Okay.
I took care about your boys and young ladies. We're going to coaching and
yeah. But we can't continue to see our justice system and our corrections institutes look like they do, filled with faces that look like ours. Some things have got to change. Some things have got to change systematically in our country. And who's going to do that but us?
But it starts from home.
It does, but
parents got to be hold some level of accountability.
They have to.
You're educated. You know that live and well. We always want to point the finger at somebody else. But when we don't start pointing the finger at ourselves?
At the law. We want to point the finger at the law.
We find boogeymans to always point at, but we gotta go back to self accountability. I am my own worst enemy. No white man in this world wake up in the morning got Deddrick T woman in their brain, rent free.
Right.
Okay, I say that all the time.
Yeah.
And I said, but guess who lives in their own brain rent free of the demons that I have because I can't let go yesterday.
Yeah.
I can't shake off from what somebody hurt me, so what somebody did to me, or what traumatic events I had in my life.
Yeah.
I said, but I have to, if you're
to justify
because of what things I've had, blessings I've had, opportunities that I did not take care of. But like I always say, God give us another second, minute, hour, day, week, month, year, decade, hopefully another lifetime if you put your trust and faith in him.
That's
but
right.
no man will ever steal your joy unless you allow him to.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Deddrick, tell us tell us again what position that you're running for and when your election's coming up.
Well, the the midterm elections, of course, are going to be coming up in March, the first Tuesday in March. Early vote will be done, of course, several weeks before. And of course, the general election would be, of course, on the first Tuesday in November, election day. And this is in 2026, and this is for the 9th district. Of course, there's a special election in the 18th district that's out there. Please check your candidates out. I'm gonna let you do the closing. I'm gonna do a closing behind you because I want to hear your closing. Yes.
All right.
Go ahead, Kim.
Okay. I just want everybody to know that I love my state. I will call out the bad.
She didn't have to use it on me tonight. She didn't have to use it on me.
I will call out the bad and I will uplift the good.
Yeah.
And she always carries a
And
Constitution.
I always carry
Got notes in it. Got notes in it.
highlighted with notes in
That's
it.
right.
So
Like
if
Bible.
that's right. So if anybody has a question,
She goes straight to the
See me.
Constitution. That's right.
see me. I see it.
I say this. It's got all kind of notes in it.
Yes.
America is not a perfect. Is a beautiful woman, but not a perfect woman. This has been a 200 and almost a 250-year experiment.
That's right.
And this experiment has had a lot of letdowns that was started before this this woman was created. But it's a progress that has some strong ups, accomplishments, but also too it has some storms. But this nation, I believe in it. I have hope in it.
Right.
And I know the fact that, but what we got to do is bring back common sense back into the table again. We got to bring people who love this nation. Bring people, like a Kim. Bring people, like you, who really love this nation
Don't
well.
leave me out, Deddrick.
Who love this nation well.
Yeah.
And, and as I share with Crystal and I share with Kim, is that we can all have difference of opinions and perspectives because we come from three different, even though we're people of color, we have three different outlooks.
Frames of reference. That's
right. What we do, we share one common thing. We care the love of our nation.
That's right.
We care the love of our people. But we can only love what we love, but we need you to take control of your community, take control of who you hire. Again, you don't vote. Voting was something that was given as a privilege based on the Constitution. That was a privilege given to you that was an earned right that people died and fought to give you that right. Now,
That's right.
50 years later now, you're now voting. Do not let any elected official, because I'm one pursuing another office, tell you that you are privileged to vote for me because I fight for you. Fight what? Fight the air? What am I doing to make your life better? What I'm doing to inspire your children to be great in who they are? What I'm doing that you can go to bed at night and not worry about your job, your career, to worry about your public safety, and to worry about your health. That is what government can do for you. And that is why I'm running for the 9th Congressional District. Thank you, and may the Lord bless you all.
Okay, with that in mind, my Facebook and YouTube families, I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight again on my Crystal Loves Texas podcast. And we know that Rebecca's going to be back. I know Rebecca hates that she missed this podcast.
I know.
Rebecca hates she missed this podcast tonight. But we will see you. And guys, keep going with the comments. I want to acknowledge Paulette's comment. Paulette said, has anyone ever conducted the fact that open borders are all around this country except for the Texas and California borders? Canadians come and go at will. Now they are allowing South Africans to be considered refugees. So, wow, people have been listening. So, and a lot of times we get most of our comments and most of our views after the fact. So we're going to be, but Deddrick is going to be chiming in. He's going to be looking at these comments, answering any questions that you have on there. I will be looking back. Kim will be looking back.
And I'm going to say this, guys. This is why I came on the show, so I can craft policy. I'm already claiming that I will be the next congressional member in Congress for the next Congress in 27, January 1st of 27. So this is the comments I'm looking for that I can craft policy, because it's not about me. There's no special interest telling me to do this. This is about you. And this is why I'm on these shows. This is why I'm listening to the comments. So these things are powerful. We got to listen. We like to talk, but we don't listen.
That's right. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week, and we'll get Deddrick back here before the election. And he sent out a challenge. He would like to come here and sit down and speak face to face if possible, and get some insight from Congressman Green.
Love to.
And whether or not they sit down and share insight or not, we would love for Congressman Green.
It's a conversation.
To come on.
It's not a debate. It's a conversation.
We would like for Congressman Green to come on and also share his insight on what he thinks needs to happen in the 9th District. I love the conversation. Yeah. That's how thoughts get out there. And I like old school politics in this. People knew that it was your job to sit down with the other side, regardless of who that was, and get the job done. Yeah. Not take the ball and go to your corner and cross your hands and puff up your cheeks. People knew, back in the day, people knew that they'd get the job done. And, all of this silliness and bickering is for the birds. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And Deddrick, you're going to see what we do every week in a minute.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. And Kim, like we say, we can do it. See you later.
Not all Republicans are the same. Not all Democrats are the same. If you wear blue, you're labeled. If you wear red, you're labeled. I'm a dad, I'm a mortgage bank president, and I'm a public servant. It's time to build real relationship across all communities and across party lines. Some of the best ideas come from honest conversations, from sitting down eye to eye with people who do not look like you and who do not think like you, but still choosing respect over rage. Opposite of my incumbent. I am a Republican. I am proud of my compassionate conservative values, but that doesn't mean I walk in lockstep with every ideal that has an R next to it. For Pearland, the Missouri City, and Sunnyside, our communities don't need division. We need a sensible immigration policy, one that honors security and humanity, so we can finally move forward as one and make Houston the AI capital of the world. I believe in fiscal responsibility. I believe in nuclear families. I believe in safe communities, and I believe in empowering people through economic opportunity, not dependency. Middle-class families cannot just survive, but truly prosper. That's why I'm running for Congress. Listen, it doesn't take 100 years to do this. It takes political courage. It takes vision. And most of all, it takes faith. Faith in our people, our future, and our ability to get this done. We need high-speed railroad linking both Hobby and Bush airports to drive commerce, careers, and tourism. We need congressional funding to help lower property taxes and support local and state agencies. We need modern flood control, underground systems that move stormwater to Galveston Bay in hours, not days. Our communities don't need division. They need careers, not just jobs. We need real investment in infrastructure, in education, and families who make this district strong. Over the last 20 years, this district has had the same representation. We have to ask ourselves, has anything truly improved? Everybody that you fight is not your enemy. Everybody that helps you is not your friend. Politics turn personal. Sound bites replace solutions along with misinformation. It's about bringing a new kind of leadership to Washington. Leadership that listens. Leadership that leads. Together, we will move America forward. Together, we will move Texas forward. My name is Deddrick T. Wilmer, and I approve this message.